Hey, everybody. Tonight we're debating whether or not Christian nationalism is bad for America, and we are starting right now with Planet Peterson's opening statement. Thanks for being with us. Planet Peterson, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Pleasure is all mine. So, I'll start with a little story. Shortly after the Revolutionary War broke out, the Continental Army, they overtook Fort Ticonderoga, and then what they did was they moved 50 cannons from the fort to Boston and bombarded the British blockade there, which led to a British retreat and the recapture of the city of Boston. And there was this preacher, his name was Jedediah Dewey, and he gave this very long sermon thanking God, who did absolutely nothing. And when Colonel Ethan Allen reminded Dewey that he, in fact, captured the fort, he was accused of blaspheming. So I think this is a nice little microcosm showing Christians taking credit for everything in an instance where they did nothing, or where they do nothing. Now, to be fair, Christian states in this country, they are leading the way in infant mortality, in obesity, in teen pregnancy, in divorce, in poverty, in STDs, in having the lowest life expectancy, in having the highest rate of maternal death, being the least educated, having the least educational achievement, and all of that good stuff. So clearly, Christianity hasn't really done good for these states, so I don't know why anyone would think or want to create a nation in Christianity's own image. Now, even if you want to argue that Christianity isn't directly the sole cause of any of those factors, well, it clearly isn't doing anything to improve those factors. So what exactly is Christian nationalism supposed to do for our country? I don't know my opponent's specific view on this, so I'm not going to try to predict it here or anything like that. We'll just have to wait for open discussion, because it could go a million different directions. But in the conversations that I've had and the conversations I have observed, Christian nationalism, I don't think it really can be the answer, because the people that hate it the most tend to be Christians. This is historically true, and it's true in the present as well. Christians have killed other Christians in wars and conflicts throughout history that far exceed the death tolls as a percentage of the population than we saw even during World War II. Christian nationalists' wet dreams would become a nightmare today, too. Fertility rates are low. Okay, Mormons have the highest fertility rate, so now we will make Latter-day Saints the official religion of the United States. Is that what you wanted? Wait, no, that's not what we had in mind. We have forgotten Christ's teachings about the poor and the marginalized. Okay, so that progressive minister that spoke at Trump's inauguration, she's now the president or something, and now you all have to do what she said, Christian nationalists. Wait, no, that's not what we wanted either. This country was better when we had blasphemy laws on the books. That's what we need to get back to. Okay, well, the First Amendment is repealed, and anyone who doesn't adhere to some random denomination, Catholicism, anyone that doesn't adhere to that is now blaspheming, and all other denominations other than the one we chose are now illegal. Wait, no, that's not what we wanted. Yeah, but all of those things would be Christian nationalism, right? So I can already kind of hear in my head the low IQ responses from Pickle Boy Wilson and his troll army saying, herder, but that already happens in government. No, actually, it literally doesn't, because we have a secular government that has a system of checks and balances. That's a system that actually works. Christianity doesn't have that. And I really don't see any possible model where we make our government or our nation Christian and can maintain the best working parts of it when it actually does work, which it actually literally currently isn't. If you were somehow able to do that, then you would just, again, end up with the system that we currently have. Every advocate for Christian nationalism, the way I see it, is just advocating for their personal beliefs, which often really have nothing to do with Christianity. Who takes money and gives it to the rich? The evangelical right wing of this country. Who is against making healthcare a right? The evangelical wing of this country. Who doesn't want to feed children? The evangelical wing of this country. Who is cheerleading genocide and ethnic cleansing currently? The evangelical wing of this country. Well, actually, that last one is biblical, so I guess that doesn't really count. So I think it's a demonstrably worthless and contradictory system, and it may have a future, unfortunately, with the way things are going, but I certainly think that there is no hope. And that's my opening statement.
Thank you very much for that opening statement. And folks, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, I'm your host, Dr. James Coons. We are a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Why? Because if you didn't know, we have our Modern Day Debate's own debate conference. DebateCon is coming up November 15th in Nashville, Tennessee. It's linked in the description box. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, remaining seating is limited. We are expecting to sell out. Grab your tickets right now. See and meet people like Planet Peterson, as well as Andrew Wilson, made by Jim Bob, Dr. Richard Carrier, Daniel Hakikachu, you name it. This is a stacked conference. Grab your tickets now. You can see more at the bottom right of your screen. That's just our little promo poster for the event. In fact, Wi-Fi Gospel, I think you're going to be there as well, right?
I will be in attendance, yes.
Amazing. So, folks, come on out, hang out with us, say hello. It's going to be a fun time. With that, we're going to kick it over to Wi-Fi Gospel's opening. Thanks for being with us. Wi-Fi, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, James, for hosting this debate. Appreciate it. Thank you, Eric, for doing it. I'm usually on the affirmative side, so it's a change of pace being on the negative side tonight. The prompt for this debate is Christian nationalism bad for America? Does not require me to give an account for why I think that Christian nationalism is good for America. It does require, however, my opponent to provide arguments and for me to demonstrate how those arguments don't actually prove the prompt. Pretty much all we heard tonight was an ecological fallacy, and I don't like Christianity. The ecological fallacy is drawing conclusions about individuals based on group-level data. So saying that this state has a higher rate of Christians and has, say, a higher rate of teen pregnancy doesn't actually work. It doesn't show that that is the cause, that one is the cause of the other. All right, so what I am going to do is give a definition of Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism is the promotion of Christian ethics in order to achieve prominence and dominance in political, cultural, and societal life, or social life. The arguments that I've heard Eric use in the past, which we haven't really heard tonight yet, but I'm sure they'll come up, against Christian nationalism are as follows. Christian nationalism cannot be good for America because it will create a dysfunctional government. Why does Eric think this will be the case? And he actually did allude to this in his opening. This is apparently because there are too many different denominations. So if one of those denominations holds too much power, the other ones will get upset, right? And if they all hold equal power, then nothing will get done. There'll just be too much infighting, right? The problem with this is that would be true of every ideology ever. There is always infighting when it comes to any large group of people. It's a completely nonsense argument. Eric often argues that Christian nationalism is dysfunctional by pointing to studies that link between high levels of theism and societal dysfunction. The problem is that these studies commit what's known as the ecological fallacy. They draw conclusions about individuals from group-level data. For example, Mississippi has both high church attendance and high teen pregnancy, but that doesn't mean churchgoers are the cause. In fact, there are actually no studies that track teen pregnancy rates in comparison to religious affiliation activity in Mississippi. So how could we possibly know where the teen pregnancy is coming from and make the conclusion that because there's a high church attendance, therefore there is a high teen pregnancy rate? Another argument he likes to make is the Establishment Clause, right? He likes to point to James Madison when it comes to the Establishment Clause, and fair enough, he wrote it. James Madison is quoted saying, Congress should not establish a religion and enforce the legal observation of it by law, nor compel men to worship God in any manner contrary to their conscience. Christian nationalism does not need to have a national church in order to function. Christian ethics can still be the dominant and prominent social and political influence without a national church. With that being said, James and the Establishment Clause have zero weight when it comes to enacting laws based on Christian ethics. How do we know this? Well, we have McGowan versus Maryland,
Hold on one second.
1961.
I hate to interrupt. Your mic is just acting a little bit wonky. Just kind of like going in and out. It's got almost like wavy. Go ahead, we'll give you a chance, but I just want to keep an eye on it.
Thank you. Hold on. Let me change the mic. It's funny because we did this beforehand because I was trying a new software and we thought we had it all set. Let's see.
It might just be my imagination, but I'm quite sure that it was like kind
I
of like
can't-
going.
No, I was hearing it too. Oh, am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's that I was hearing it on my end too. It might be that noise cancellation thing you're using.
I
but
messed
don't know.
everything up. Hold on.
Sure.
That reminds me, folks, our guests, Wi-Fi Gospel and Planet Peterson, are linked in the description. So don't forget that as we're going through this debate. The debaters are the lifeblood of the channel. We are grateful for them. If this is just me debating myself every night, it would be disgraceful. So check out our guest links. We do appreciate them.
All right. So how's my mic now?
Good.
Is there any background noise?
No,
Okay, good. My kids are upstairs going crazy.
I hear nothing.
I just have to change on my stream. Sorry.
No problem.
All right. I think we're all set now.
Cool.
All right, I'm almost done with the opening. So I was going over the Supreme Court cases. I have two of them to go over, and then I'll be done. McGowan versus Maryland in 1961. It's been named the secular purpose test. Maryland had Sunday closing laws. Businesses couldn't open on Sunday.
Oh, it's
Originally.
crackly. It's very crackly. There's something.
It's
someone-
worse. Yeah.
Maybe we'll go to the first one if it sounds like there's like it's maybe not plugged in all the way or something.
How about now?
That's still bad. There's crackling still.
This is embarrassing, guys. So I'm sorry.
And
That's all right.
it's cutting your voice out too. It's treating your voice like a background noise and then like cutting you.
This is totally normal. We have this stuff at Modern Day Debate all the time in terms of my audio as well. And then, non-incoming guests will have it too. So don't worry about it. Don't stress. Take a deep breath. Find out whatever mic works. What I want to do is, folks, this is just as a last, and Wi-Fi, just raise your hand or just say, hey, I'm ready whenever you are ready. But I don't want to put you on the spot because I do want to quick promote. Folks, this is like if you absolutely can't be in person for DebateCon 6, like you're on your way to the airport to fly to DebateCon 6 on November 15th and your legs fall off, then it would be okay to watch it at home. If you become a member at the final word tier, as it says at the bottom right of the screen. Gosh, I put the last word. I was supposed to say the final word. But you see the poster at the bottom of the screen, the final word, last, they're synonyms. You can watch all the debates, the stage debates from home. That's 7 debates, which divided by the price of the membership, $14.99, is $2 a debate, approximately. Get your final word membership tier now. And if you're like me, if you're frugal, just cancel it after the conference. I'm not offended by that. But make sure you see this conference live, whether it be in person or via the final word tier. Ready for you?
Test. How is it now?
Good.
Good? All right.
Yep.
I'm just gonna have to keep it close to my face, I think.
No problem.
All right. Back to the Supreme Court cases. McGowan versus Maryland, 1961, secular purpose test. Maryland had Sunday closing laws. Businesses couldn't open on Sundays. Originally, such laws came from the Christian Sabbath tradition. Plaintiffs said that the law violated the Establishment Clause because it had religious roots. The Supreme Court upheld the law. This is from Chief Justice Warren. Just because the legislation coincides with the tenets of some or all religions does not invalidate it. Then we have another example. Harris versus McRae, 1980, the abortion funding case. Plaintiffs argued the Hyde Amendment, which restricted Medicaid funding for abortions, violated the Establishment Clause because it reflected Catholic values. The Supreme Court rejected that argument. Justice Stewart said, That the Judeo-Christian religions oppose stealing does not mean that a state or the federal government may not criminalize theft. The fact that the legislation coincides with the tenets of some religions does not invalidate it. Eric has no leg to stand on to say that the Establishment Clause would somehow prohibit Christians from enacting laws based on Christian ethics. And that's my opening. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that opening. We're going to kick it over to both of you for our open discussion. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
Excuse me.
So I do have a question for you, Eric.
Okay.
Can Christian nationalism ever be good for America?
Could it? In some sort of sense, I could imagine. What's that show? You know the show, is it The Men in High Castle? Is that the show? Have you heard of that one?
I haven't.
Is that the one where, like, technically the Nazis won World War II, but everybody lives, like, peacefully now in the modern age or something?
It sounds familiar, but I
think that's the show. Something like that. Yeah, I think that's the one. So anyways, I could imagine in a possible world where every single person in America is Christian and somehow has basically the exact same social norms and specific Christology or whatever, then there is a kind of harmony and kumbaya that could exist. But I think that's a wildly improbable hypothetical. It just would never happen. The only way you could possibly try to get something like that is through brute force and tyranny, which has been tried all throughout history in different places in more ways than just Christianity. It's been tried in all kinds of, for all kinds of religions and other things. And it leads to misery, oppression, and usually eventually some kind of civil war.
You're saying it could not lead to those things.
I say it's almost certainly impossible. I gave an example of how hypothetically you could have this weird kumbaya kind of thing, but no, I think modern societies are too large and complex. If you have bands of people and there are only like 200 of them, then yeah, you could probably get everybody to kind of agree on something, but not when you have millions of people.
So just to make this really clear, I'm asking, could Christian nationalism ever be good for America?
Because, I mean, like, you're going to have a country where huge numbers of people aren't Christian, and I don't see exactly how Christian nationalism would necessarily be good for them. So my answer, again, is it seems almost certainly not. I don't think it's, like, the worst imaginable thing, but no. It kind of has
I just want to finish the line of logic. I'm just having audio issues now on my stream. Can I just get 1 second? I'm sorry.
Yep, that's fine.
No problem. Folks, if you haven't yet, hit that like button. We do appreciate your support. It is a good deed. If you haven't done a good deed for the day, hey, if you hit the like button, it means something to me. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because all of the DebateCon debates and the outnumbered recordings will be uploaded to the channel after the event. In fact, I'm going to hit that subscribers only chat mode right now in case you missed the verbal reminder. So thank you guys for being with us tonight, including Bestiver, Hatchy Man 123, Johnny Atheist. I see you there in the old live chat, among many others in the live chat. Pro Debate says, I didn't like it. I smashed the like button. Thank you so much.
All right, I think we're all set.
Ready.
All right, so I just want to finish this line of logic, and then you feel free. You can ask questions. That's totally fine. So what I heard from you is that you say it's almost certainly impossible, but that's not the same as saying it's impossible, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So then would you consider a debate prompt like, is Christian nationalism bad for America? In order to say yes, that would be a universal statement, correct?
No.
Why not?
Nobody couches or qualifies the way they use everyday speech like that. This is a really idiotic debate bro tactic. Oh,
that's
did
fine.
you mean literally 100%? Like, we use words like true
So
to mean something other than absolutely 100% true and could not possibly be false in any possible condition. So no, I do not accept your point about the prompt of the debate.
that's fine. I'll make it easy for you. We could totally move on to a prompt like, is Christian nationalism generally bad for America? Just, concede the prompt and we can move forward pretty easily.
I reject your interpretation of the prompt. We don't have to switch the prompt.
So
The
it's not
prompt
a
is not what
universal
you
statement
declare the
something is
prompt to
bad.
be. So nice
I mean,
try.
I'm just reading the prompt.
Yep,
It
and
doesn't say
in
that
your
it's
own
generally bad,
interpretation
right?
of the prompt. Yep, that is your interpretation of the prompt. You are not the arbiter of what the interpretation of it is, and so it doesn't work that way. So nice
Okay.
try.
So just to be clear, final thing I'll say about it, there is no contradiction between the statement that, or there's no contradiction about the statement that Christian nationalism is good for America.
I don't even know what you meant by that. I'm gonna stick with your
you-
sort of
Is that a yes or a
in
no?
the theme of what you were talking about here. Do you think not being a Christian should be illegal?
No. No, neither does Christian nationalism think that.
Okay. Well, would you actually? We should probably. I was actually thinking about this during the opening discussions. There are different ways that a person can interpret what they think Christian nationalism is, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't know what yours specifically is. So I kind of got the feeling that
Were you listening to the opening statement?
yes, which is why I was literally in the middle of saying I got the feeling that, and I was going to say listening to your opening statement. Are you thinking more of like small d democracy, just the people of the country? We would be better off if the people of the country either the vast majority of them are Christian or at least hold to traditionally Christian values? Or do you think that Christian nationalism should work in sort of like a top-down way, like the government should impose Christian ethics on the population?
Well, Christian nationalism itself wouldn't be limited to either, and it would probably come in the form of both, but it could be either.
Okay, what is like your idea of it? What do you think would be like? Do you think we should do both?
I think, again, it could work both ways, and it just depends. I mean, it's real-time strategy. What's happening in real time and what will work. You could have it both ways, but it's not limited to either one. It doesn't necessarily matter how I would implement Christian nationalism, because the prompt is, would Christian nationalism, once implemented, be bad for America?
Well, yeah, if you don't have a plan, then it's like how are we supposed to gauge whether or not it would work? Excuse me, or anything like that. So then I guess, do you think it would be bad if? Well, do you think there are not enough Christians in the country currently?
Considering I would want everyone in the world to be Christian, in that sense, yeah, there's not enough.
Okay, so then it seems. So then, why wouldn't you support the government saying being non-Christian is illegal?
Because you can't make someone a Christian by coercion. Like you can't actually do that. You don't become a Christian by coercion.
Sure, but the government could still make it illegal to be. I mean, it's not even about forcing converts or anything like that. But they could still claim, look, we think this is the absolute peak of morality or whatever, and we don't accept anything else.
Okay. And
Well, if that's the case, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what you think we should do. Do you think we should completely stop immigration from not necessarily make it illegal in this country, but do you think we should just completely stop all immigration from groups that are not Christian?
there could be a case made for that, and maybe even a case made for non-Christian countries. So maybe not an individual test, but to just stop immigration from non-Christian countries. And probably just for the meantime, I mean, Right now, as we're trying to deal with an illegal immigration problem, we're deporting hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people every year. Then uh, also, we have a backlog of, I think, 5.4 million legal immigration applications. So we're in a tough spot right now. Our systems are clogged up. So I think stopping all immigration right now would probably be smart, no matter what side you're on.
Okay. I'll ask one more question. I've asked you a bunch in a row, so I'll let you take the next one. But how would Christian nationalism protect the rights of non-Christians?
The same way that non-Christians have their rights protected now.
I mean, it doesn't really sound like you think too much should even change. It's kind of weird.
Well, how would you describe someone's rights are protected right now?
Through the Constitution.
Okay, is the Constitution blocking me physically from, say, assaulting you?
No.
Right. What would stop me? And I would never do this. But what would stop someone from assaulting another person?
Well, I think that's probably something internal, but I do very strongly believe that how do I say this? The law of the land, I think, really does very strongly influence the sort of general society, like norms of the population, and we can also think of that as like the moral compass of the population. It's like, for example, interracial marriage today, only about 5 to 8% of the population disapproves of it. But in the 50s, it was the opposite. Only like 5 to 7% of the population approved of it. What happened? Did we become more woke? Did we become more Christian? Did we become more? No, they just like literally said, you can't discriminate that way. And when people grew up with that being the norm, it became what's accepted.
Yeah, and I think that in a Christian nationalist society, what I was getting at is that you would make laws, and those laws would prohibit people from doing certain actions, such as assaulting another person.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a Christian wouldn't be able to assault another Christian either. When I'm talking about the rights of non-Christians, what you just said isn't really exactly a right that only works, when it's Christians versus non-Christians or something like that. I mean, I'm thinking like there's not a single thing in the Bible you can point to that is in concordance or in accordance with the First Amendment, for example.
Okay.
So why should I believe that like my rights as a non-Christian or other people who are non-Christians would still be able to maintain the kinds of protections like we have, for example, in the First Amendment when a Christian ethic all of a sudden takes over?
Why would a Christian ethic not coincide with the Constitution?
Because the Bible is decidedly against the First Amendment, for example.
If the Bible is decidedly against the First Amendment, why did nobody make that argument at all when writing the Constitution?
Well, that's just like literally not true.
Who made the argument?
I don't know if I probably couldn't, like, at least off the top of my head, couldn't give you an example of somebody pointing to the Bible, but they pointed out that religions, if you give a religion dominance or whatever, then that never works. So that's why we have the free exercise clause and the establishment clause. So I do have some quotes here that I can give you. So
that's not true.
It's not true that I don't have quotes that I can give you?
No. You said dominance. It wasn't dominance. It was federal backing, federal establishment.
The Hobsonian government model, which we have, is that the federal government has a monopoly on power. So it absolutely is dominance. If the federal government is aligned with a religion, then that is absolutely dominance. Domination, Holmes, as what's his name? To be fair,
that can be considered dominance. But what I was trying to get at is a religion doesn't have to be established federally to have dominance, correct?
There can be if we had I think we do have a secular government, but like you could live in a country that has a completely secular constitution, but everyone in the country is Christian. There is a sense in which culturally Christianity is like dominating, but that doesn't at the same time mean that it rules over people's lives in a tyrannical sort of sense or in an authoritative type of sense.
Are you then saying that if that same country with which you said was secular, so I'm guessing its laws are based on secular ideas, wouldn't that then be secular ideas ruling over and tyrannizing those people?
In what sense would they be tyrannized? Like if I tell you you're not allowed to take your religion and restrict rights of other people, I'm not oppressing you by doing that.
In what way would someone be oppressed if a Christian nation told them they couldn't murder babies in the womb?
Well, if you think that people have the right to bodily autonomy, then they would be oppressing that right specifically. I could literally grant you that abortion is murder, but there are quite a lot of other issues, such as I've been trying to get at the First Amendment here. It's like if I go out in public and say that Jesus never existed. I don't believe this, but I go out and say Jesus never existed, and then all of a sudden, that I get thrown in prison or fined for that. Which there have been fines for blasphemy before, and I think that that's not a good thing. That's an example of what I'm talking about. I want to just add real quick because you did bring up when was this ever like argued or whatever. So there were our country didn't start with a constitution. That came later. So the House, Madison had to go to the House of Representatives, and he had to debate and defend his drafting of like the First Amendment, for example. And they asked him, "What does this mean? This thing about the Establishment Clause and Free Exercise Clause?" And he said, "Quote." The meaning of the words to be that Congress should not establish a religion and enforce the legal observation of it by law, nor compel men to worship God in any manner contrary to their conscience. So earlier when you said, when was there ever an argument? It was, I now forget exactly where we were in that, but you said, when was that ever argued? It's argued right there.
Well, you said the Bible was against the First Amendment or something like that?
Well, clearly, it says, you shall have no gods before me. And the First Amendment says, no, we're not going to have a country where an idea like that is imposed upon the people from the federal government.
Who's to say that Christian nationalists would enact everything the Bible says as law? There are a lot of things that the Bible says... Well, then it wouldn't be Christian. Okay, so when the Bible says you cannot lie, right, cannot bear false witness, would that be a law that you cannot lie in a Christian nationalist society?
It wouldn't be uniquely Christian, but compelling people that the Christian God is the only God is uniquely Christian.
Hold on. You said that if something is in the Bible and it's not legislated, it wouldn't be Christian nationalism.
I never said anything like that. I'm not sure. This started with me saying that the Bible is against the First Amendment.
All right. And then my argument back was just because something is in the Bible does not mean that will be legislated. You gave an example. Mm-hmm. You shall have no gods before me. That's not something any Christian nationalist I know of is going to legislate or wants to legislate.
You know that we literally have had blasphemy laws in this country before, right?
Yeah, and how does... But having no gods before me isn't has nothing to do with a blasphemy law.
Yes, it is. Denying the Christian God is a blasphemy.
Okay, but denying the Christian God and worshiping another God is completely different. You don't have to deny the Christian God. The question is it
blasphemy? You said it isn't, but it is.
It's so if you want to have like this super broad blasphemy and saying that worshiping another god is blasphemy, maybe you can make that argument.
It literally is.
Specifically when you speak against the Christian God. When you worship another god, like there were Jews who still believed in Yahweh and worshipped Yahweh one day, then the next day they'd go worship a pagan god, and then they'd come back and worship Yahweh. Did they ever denounce Yahweh to go worship those other gods? No. Was worshiping those other gods still wrong and violating that command? Yes.
Okay, what's the point?
The point is, just because something is in the Bible doesn't mean it has to be legislated in order for Christian nationalism to function.
I agree, but the questions are, is there the potential for that kind of thing? Is there a historic precedent for that kind of thing? And then are there efforts made by people today for that kind of thing? I can't give you a name off the top of my head, but I absolutely hear talking heads like on social media, and I couldn't give you an example of me hearing somebody say this like from the floor of the Senate or the House or whatever, but they absolutely do think there are people that think that we should have blasphemy laws and that we were better off when we had them. Michael Knowles, for example, there has a pretty long interview with Alex O'Connor where they talk about that kind of thing, and he's monumentally influential among Christians in this country.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, sure, maybe Michael knows, I don't know his exact position. Maybe if he had some form of power in government and was able to enact a blasphemy law, he may want to. And I'm not even saying that I totally disagree with blasphemy laws, but it's not specifically Christian nationalists to have these blasphemy laws. But just because Michael Knowles says it, like, I have a quote here: priests must be fought with the same ruthless vigor as the capitalist. Religion must be destroyed by force if necessary, for it chains the worker to his exploiters. Would you agree with that statement?
No. Is that Karl
Right.
Marx?
Sounds like him, right? No, it's actually Emma Goldman, who she was an American who lived in the 20th century. I thought I had exactly who she was. I hadn't heard of her before this.
Right.
The reason I grabbed these quotes was just to show that there are people who may share like a base ideology with you, maybe secularism as a broad idea, but you would clearly disagree with and fight against, right? I picked quotes that I know you wouldn't like or agree with. And I'm like, just because there are people out there who hold maybe a base amount of views that are similar to yours doesn't mean that that base philosophical view or ideology shouldn't be used as a foundation to enact laws.
Yeah, the way I'm trying to approach this is I take what you're saying and I agree with you. Like, well, just because it could happen doesn't mean that it would happen or whatever. But then what I think that you need to do is you need to be able to give a defense against it within your worldview. So that's why I said I don't think you can give any kind of, there's nothing in Christian ethics that is in support of the First Amendment directly. In fact, there's a huge amount that's directly against it. Like there's nothing in the Bible that says the free exercise of religion is tolerable, that or that being agnostic or an atheist is tolerable or anything like that. So I mean, there goes free exercise, and just like freedom of speech in general, not for all cases, but
yeah. So there's a few things going on here. One, obviously, the Bible is a work similar to the Constitution, which needs interpretation, right? And you can have your interpretation of the Bible, that's fine. But we're not limited to what you think the Bible says and what you think the Bible is against. There would be, especially within a Catholic or Orthodox tradition, there are people who study, right?
You're cutting out again.
Oh. Is it fine now?
Sounds okay.
Okay. So even within like a Catholic and Orthodox tradition, there are people who study canon law, right? There are all sorts of ways that Christians can derive their ethics, and it's not specifically on the letter of the law in the Bible, right?
What?
But
go ahead. I'm going to respond to that though.
Go ahead. Respond to that.
So, yeah, you ask 1,000 Christians what their idea is, and you can get 1,000 different answers, right? And I think a response that I kind of predicted for this is, look, Peterson, your criticisms of Christianity, a secular government that has political parties, they're not going to agree on things either. The problem is, and then you're talking about interpreting the Bible, but like the government, like the system that we have, you could reimagine a system pretty similar to the one we have in a lot of different ways, like a parliamentary system or a more direct democracy kind of system or whatever. But it has like a system of checks and balances, and it offers this system where it's kind of weird, but like the fact that we have stalemates in Congress was actually deliberately planned so that you couldn't just consolidate, like you need like the filibuster that we have and all that. It was made so you can't, because unfortunately stagnation is actually sometimes more preferable to broad sweeping change brought about by people with bad intentions. But the problem is with the like doing it like based on the Bible or whatever, well, God is the ultimate source, right? So if one group says, yeah, but they'll just claim you're not even from Scotland. They'll say you're not a Scotsman. We are. You call yourself a Christian, but you deny X, Y, or Z. So you're not even a Christian. We're the real Christians. Oh, who do you get your authority from? Because I get mine from God. But the other person says, well, I claim mine from God or the Holy Spirit or whatever. And I just don't see how that power dynamic ever resolves itself in a way that works well. And like there have been all kinds of schisms and civil wars fought for that reason until we came up with a better idea, I think, at least.
Well, the problem with your argument is that it's just not unique to Christian nationalism. Everybody has this problem. We have the problem right now in America between the left and the right, and it gets worse at every presidential election. One side says, you guys don't follow the Constitution, you wipe your ass with it. The other side says, no, we actually love the Constitution.
Yeah,
you
but
don't follow it, you guys wipe your ass with it.
Yeah, but like we literally have a judicial system whose job it is to like literally interpret the Constitution, and we have decades and getting onto centuries of interpretations that we can fall back onto. And some church traditions, they're different. Like there's canon law or whatever. In others, they don't have quite as much of a bureaucratic approach to the way they do things. But no, I think our system is much better because I think it just has better protections and better checks in place.
How would it be different if... How many Supreme Court judges are there? Is it 12? Or do I have
9?
9. See, I'm going to hear that one. All right, so there's 9 Supreme Court justices. They have the final say. It doesn't matter how many ideologies are floating out there about what the Constitution says and how we should treat the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. Those people may influence those justices, but I'm guessing these are very smart, educated people. They keep their opinions guarded, right? They're not easily influenced. They think about their ideas.
They're supposed to be, and that's why we have a Democrat. I mean, the Supreme Court isn't really democratic because they're appointed, not elected, but they're technically appointed by who was elected. So, like in a weird way,
right?
But there's no democracy in Christianity though either. So how do you ensure the wisdom of crowds plays any part into it?
I'm not sure there is much wisdom in crowds, and I don't think that the founding fathers in America wanted a democracy. I mean, it's a separate argument to talk about whether or not democracy is good in America the way it is. But, there were huge amendments, like even the 19th Amendment that, doubled democracy basically overnight, right?
Really shortly after the country was founded, it was just the white landowners that could vote. It actually got expanded very, very early on. I think it was in the 1790s to any free white dude. So that was actually a greater increase percentage-wise. It way more than doubled the amount of people that could participate in democracy right there. So
sure.
Yeah, percentage-wise. In terms of absolute number, it was obviously much smaller.
So basically, when you said the Bible has no room for democracy?
No, I said Christianity doesn't have any elements of democracy in it.
Right, but why wouldn't somebody be able to set up a democracy based on Christian ethics?
I think you would have to draw your inspiration from somewhere else. What I was really
Why?
just saying there is that like Christian institutions just don't have like a democracy as part of it. I know like
Well,
bishops and stuff vote for things, but the bishops aren't elected as far as I know. I think they're appointed, right? So it's like the elites do a little bit of voting on things, but that's not really a democratic system, I wouldn't say.
I don't think the Bible specifically makes prescriptions for what type of government a nation should have. But I do think that it's quite acceptable for people to make prescriptions for what types of government we should have based off of Christian ethics. Now, a democracy might be wrong, but that's the same issue. We have to argue these things out. We have to debate these things. We have to question our interpretations, just like any other person in any other ideology. That doesn't mean that Christian nationalism is bad just because it's not completely uniform in every belief for every person.
I mean, the way I'm sort of approaching this is I'm not exactly here to tell you that I can't imagine anything worse than Christian nationalism. I definitely can. But I think that it would be worse than what we currently have. But well, I don't need to. I could say more, but I've actually been talking a lot, so that's just what I'll say about that.
Well, to be fair, and I don't know what happened behind the scenes, I'm very grateful for James setting this debate up for us. There was another prompt that floated around, and I'm willing to go and do another debate sometime about it, comparing Christian nationalism to, say, I don't know if you would agree with like the liberal status quo or secular ethics, secular humanism, but we could do that another time. I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, maybe I'm doing something like that at DebateCon. So
Right.
like
That's why we
it would
do
be
it there.
down the road,
Yeah.
and then Thanksgiving's 2 weeks after
remember that.
DebateCon, so it'll down the road, perhaps.
Right. But as far as this prompt goes, because I'm just you said you may have like given it to me to ask you questions. My sole question is, what is the argument that Christian nationalism is bad for America?
Oh, sure. I guess I'm happy to repeat parts of it without talking too long, but I would just sort of go back to some of the parts from my opening statement, essentially. I think it would be worse than the system we have. And probably the biggest part of that would be kind of what we were just talking about, a little bit connected to what we were just talking about, but like the like which version of Christian nationalism, right? I think Christians would reject. Do you know how they're talking about nuking the filibuster? This sounds like a tangent. I promise it's not. You know how they're talking about nuking the filibuster in Congress?
Right.
So the idea is if we get rid of the filibuster, then if we just have a 1-vote majority, we can get whatever we want done. But the defense is always made, even by the party in power. They say no, because when we're not in power in the next election cycle, then it'll be used against us, right? And I see that same kind of thing historically with Christianity, and I think presently it would be the same problem with Christian nationalism, which the fight over domination by groups that are claiming to have the ultimate divine source of the ultimate good, and to be able to charge other people as being against that, like they could charge them as blaspheming or whatever. I just think that would lead to enormous problems. And like we know that it has done that before.
So you're saying that if some other denomination gets too much power and is the dominant force, say Protestants, and they want to persecute Catholics, and because there's quite a few amount of Protestants who believe Catholics and Orthodox are not Christian, right? They follow a works-based salvation, say, or something, right? Right. So you're saying, well, they're going to not consider these other people Christian, right?
Yeah, and I think the system we currently have, the First Amendment, protects every Christian from privately practicing and believing their religion as they see fit, And I would be extremely worried, and non-Christian, and I
Not
would be
everyone.
extremely worried that Christian nationalism would erode that protection.
Yeah, so you're saying it would erode the protection of the freedom of religion to practice.
Yeah.
Um, we make prescriptions for what a church is currently, right? As America in America, we make laws on what is and what is not a church.
Oh, well, it's from what I understand, the only way that's relevant is to get like your tax exempt status and to be able to qualify for probably like civil rights protections.
Right. So you can call yourself a church, but you wouldn't be legally recognized as one if you didn't meet certain criteria.
Yeah, John Oliver was able to do it though, so maybe it's easier than we think it is.
Maybe.
He's rich though, so that probably helped.
That definitely helps. But yeah, I would say it would. I don't see how it would be different. I mean, it might afford some churches the ability to collect taxes and be more well funded, but I don't see how if someone could just say, "Well, this isn't a church," and the people say, "Okay, kick rocks, we are a church," how that would be different than it is now.
Well, so like for example, I'm sure you agree that churches do huge amounts of community outreach and charity, right?
Correct.
But what if they lost their tax exempt status and then were crippled in their ability to do that because like it could be like it could be a non-Christian group. Like, do you think Mormons are Christians?
I would say probably not.
Right. So like literally the entire, and they have a huge
They have a war chest for sure.
yeah, but they have a huge what do you call it, the mission work that they do.
Yeah.
It's basically like compulsory, right? So imagine that gets taken away. I can imagine that being more likely to happen under Christian nationalism than the system we currently have.
I mean, secularists would love that. I mean, then you could make the same argument against secularism that secularism would be bad for America in the same way. Most atheists I talk to want tax exempt status revoked from churches.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that exactly. It's hard to say.
But honestly, tax exempt status, while it does help, it just allows people to keep large amounts of money in bank accounts without getting taxed on them, and it helps with sales tax and property tax. So like you can stuff your money into property and not get the tax on it. That's beneficial. But what's it called? Colleges do with their funds. What's it called? When they invest their money, they keep it in a certain fund. Endowment.
Yeah, an endowment. Yeah, tax the hell out of those things. That's the only thing Trump has done that I agree with, I think.
Yeah. So that's one way that like there are other ways to handle your money if you're smart enough that would be similar to a tax exempt, although obviously tax exempt status does help, but it wouldn't get rid of things like mission work. And all of those mission works currently are funded by the parishioners, right? And obviously, once the parishioners fund it a certain amount, they have businesses that they own. They sell magic underwear, I think, and stuff like that. So
the temple garment, yeah. So I've kind of been talking about protecting, like weirdly, it's been a conversation about protecting Christians under Christian nationalism, who protects the Christians from the Christians. But what about the non-Christians as well? Because again, the system that we currently have, like with free exercise and those sorts of, this like whole thing has been about just the First Amendment and almost nothing else. But like in Christian nationalism, do you at least understand? I guess I would ask, how do you see those rights still being protected for those kinds of people, people like me that don't even believe? And do you understand how I would expect it to be more likely that their protections would be eroded?
Yeah, so what rights would you be afraid of you losing as an atheist or a secularist under a Christian nationalist society?
Well, there actually are states where you can't run for public office as an atheist, like Texas and a few others. I think actually one of the New England states is like that too, which is really bizarre. So I would be afraid of seeing more of that kind of thing, right? Or not being able to be a public school teacher if you're a Muslim, for example. I mean, like literally, the Christian nationalist movement in this country that we currently have is like talking about denaturalizing and deporting Zoran Mamdani, right? I mean, the threats of the worst aspects of this, we're actually staring at them, I'm afraid. So it would be examples like that.
Yeah, so I mean, to take the argument to its ultimate endpoint, there we already prescribe for certain individuals that they lose the right to do certain things, like vote, like hold office, like be a school teacher, based on certain felonies, right? What would you say? And I swear I'm getting somewhere with this. What would you say is the reason, the core reason we do that?
I would say to protect and uphold our idea that everybody's entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right, perfect. Would you consider that a secular idea?
I think you can make it so. The founding fathers they appealed to what they called natural law, and they invoked a creator a lot of the time. Jefferson didn't really want to do it that way when he drafted the Declaration, but it wasn't up to just him. So they would, and that's grounded in an Enlightenment idea of that human reason alone is the tool by which we can come to understand things like natural law and natural rights.
So there are prescriptions that limit certain people's rights to do things based on a secular ethic. Or, yeah, those prescriptions can be based on a secular ethic. You're saying if someone used a Christian ethic to make prescriptions to limit certain people from doing certain things, the similar things you were talking about, it would be wrong just because it's based on the Christian ethic?
I'm not saying it wouldn't have to be uniquely Christian. Like I would have this exact same debate with somebody who wants to turn us into a Islamic theocracy, right? I would use
What about a secular?
A secular what?
What about would you have the same argument against a secularist?
What's the specific argument?
That using your secular ethic to enact a law that limits certain people from doing certain things in the public, would you make the same argument against them that they can't do that because of their secular ethic?
No, because the broader point is you asked me what is the purpose of like the laws, like you can't do blank if you've committed a felony or whatever. Because I don't see the avenue in a secular ethic toward violating that. But like like as an example for Christianity, like Thomas Aquinas literally wrote, "Yeah, I think blasphemy is worse than murder." Now I don't think you think that's the case, but
Correct.
But you can then see how you could imagine that people would treat blasphemers like they do murderers. But I think that blasphemy is a non-crime, so it would be just completely unjust. And even if you're going to say like it's like you can give a logical defense for it or whatever, where was I going with that? But it's still like, what actual harm occurs from blaspheming? None, except for God's feelings, apparently. So the murder is bad for everybody. The blaspheming is bad for nobody except the person's soul if you believe in hell, and maybe it hurts God's feelings. So there's a total asymmetry here.
Right, so two things. One, there is an interpretation there that as a secularist, I can understand why you look at blaspheming and say, this is just nonsense and it doesn't actually hurt anybody. There can be arguments made, and you kind of alluded to one about hurting one's soul, right? It just depends where you start from. Obviously, we start from different paradigms, so we're not going to get equal footing there. But this also just goes back to the fact of I can pull up all these quotes from all these communists who say, I mean, look, this is a really bad one. Um,
Well,
so all right, right
I'm
here.
I'm in favor
Yemelin.
of. Well, go ahead.
All right, I just want to. This is the Soviet League of Militant Atheists, the leader in the 1920s and 30s, Yemyelin Yaroslavsky. It is our duty to destroy every religious world concept. If the destruction of 10 million human beings, as happened in the last war, should be necessary for the triumph of one definite class, then that must be done, and it will be done. Obviously, you disagree with this, but he is.
Yeah, but I don't think that that's that's not what secularism is to me.
According
So like
to
we're
you,
not
yes.
we're not like we're not comparing views here. Like that wasn't the point of the debate here. But what I would say
Right.
is I would, even if we were doing that, I would sit here and I would tell you, in my worldview, Christianity is allowed to be practiced. I like the First Amendment the way it's written. Everybody has the right to free exercise or whatever. Compelling, like I that Marxist thing there is against the First Amendment. I'm against it, even though it's. But I wouldn't even say that it is secular. I'm not. I mean, I'm not even sure what that means, but
Yeah. And I mean, secular just means without religion. So like you can be not atheist. But
yeah,
be
I just don't know what
Yeah.
a secular law means. I mean, if you're prohibiting religion from being practiced, then that's in a weird kind of way almost not secular because you're choosing to intertwine the religion into it. It's not informed by religion, but you're
Yeah.
going against it, which to me neutrality is the stance, not being
Have you ever heard of the
anti.
lemon test?
Yeah.
So the lemon test uses that wordage, right? Secular. And the lemon test was struck
Yeah.
down by a recent Supreme Court case, but that's kind of the way I would use it. The secular purpose is a purpose that isn't inherently tied to a religion or a deity, right? Like the main purpose of it isn't just to uh, for a certain belief in a certain god or spiritual thing, but for the people without this idea of religion inherently inside of it. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this wordage is used even in the Supreme Court language.
Right.
But the whole thing is I'm not trying to compare worldviews because I know that's not this debate. And I said we could do that another time. I'm totally down. But the only thing I'm trying to show you is your argument can be used, and I'm using or trying to use your worldview to make it impact more because this can be used on any worldview, right? I don't agree with everything Thomas Aquinas says. You don't agree with probably anything Yemelayan Yaroslavsky says. But both of you share a portion of this worldview, and atheism and secularism can overlap pretty hard. Like there's tons of different prescriptions you can come to based on this ideology, and the same thing for Christians is what you're saying. So I don't see how this argument does anything to Christian nationalism. It just points out that humans don't agree on a lot of things.
Yeah, I guess I've already made the point on this that I want to. It's that I'm afraid in a Christian nationalist, like if we changed to Christian nationalism, whatever the hell that means, then the better aspects of our society or government or whatever that provide checks and balances and keeps power in check would be more likely to be eroded, I guess is what I would say.
Would it then be fair, just to finish off the point, would it then be fair to say, on the same token, and again, this works for any ideology, but just using it for secularism, I would be afraid that if secular ideology was the dominant social, political, and cultural force, that I would be afraid, based on Yemelayan Yaroslavsky's views, that he would kill me.
Say I missed the beginning part of that. Say that again.
Right. So you're both secularists.
Yeah.
Me and Thomas Aquinas are both Christians.
Yep.
You're saying if Christian nationalism is enforced, then you would be afraid that somebody like Thomas Aquinas would come along and say blaspheming is worse than murder, and if you blaspheme in any way, I'm going to publicly execute you or something like that.
Yeah.
Would it then be fair to me say, if you were advocating for some form of like secular ideology to be the dominant political, social, cultural force, that if that was enacted, based on these quotes that I have here, I would be afraid that I would be killed?
I mean, I can kind of understand the logic in that, I guess. It's just that I would point out that if we look in the country and all around the world, we see that the religiosity coincides with higher levels of internal conflict and homicide and murder and corruption and all kinds of things. So the question is, what's more likely to be dangerous? Like I could say, well, you know, a lot of people die in car crashes, so you should take public transport. Yeah, but did you see the video of that guy stabbing that Ukrainian girl? That happened in a train too. Yeah, we'd have to look at the data, I guess.
You know, to be fair, this is my first Christian nationalist debate. I've been studying a lot on the topic in general and specifically for this debate. And one of the things that comes up in my study is, you know, this debate really does get into the debate that you're having with Jake from Rattlesnake TV at DebateCon, right? Just like you said. Because if we could objectively prove that one system is better for society than another, then that would be this kind of the same problem. Is it bad for America? Well, if it's objectively better for society, then it would be good for America, right? So I understand the overlap there, but we're not having that debate tonight. Do you have any other arguments for why Christian nationalism is bad?
Oh, I mean, probably. I wrote down, God, I wrote down so many things. This has been a super chill conversation, though. So some of these are meant to be pretty pointed lines of questioning.
That's fine.
Let me go. Well, there was one that I wrote down, and it's kind of along the theme that we've been talking about. So it may sound a little bit repetitive, but could you give me the case for why you think Christian nationalism would be better for non-Christians than whatever we have going on now?
I think it would only be better, not only, but it definitely would be better for non-Christians if they accepted the Christian worldview. Now,
well, but that's not that's not the question, though.
yeah. No, I'm trying to answer.
Yep.
I don't know if off the top of my head I could make the argument right here, right now, that it would be better for non-Christians. I guess my question back would just be, I don't see how it wouldn't, how it would be worse. Like I think, all right. So here's one off the top of my head.
Well, I kind of gave all the possible hypotheticals, so I'm just asking you to give the case. It was like I was attacking. I'm just asking you to defend, I guess.
Yeah. Well, if Christian nationalism, if Christianity is better for society, then obviously it would benefit non-Christians to have a better society. So that's one argument. Now you would say, okay, well then prove that Christian ethics is better for society, and that's a completely different debate. But that would be one argument of, if it's better for society and society is better, then I'm sure the non-Christian would have a better experience in society.
That's an okay answer. It's just kind of nondescript, though. Like, in what sense are their lives improved? Why does the life of the atheist get better once we start doing Christian nationalism?
Yeah, and I didn't really prepare arguments for this beforehand based on the prompt, but let's engage a little bit here.
Right.
Have you ever done something that you enjoyed but was bad for you?
Yeah, I had Sonic earlier today.
Yes. Although I'm not a huge fan of Sonic, so I think that was just torture all around.
I just wanted the cherry limeade. That was really all I wanted, but I got the burger to go with it.
Yeah. So I think that we do things all the time, some of us more than others, that we enjoy and sometimes don't even realize they're bad for us. And I think that Christian ethics, the prescriptions based on Christian ethics, would outlaw a lot of those things. I think that most Christian nationalists would be
Interesting.
okay with outlawing marijuana. I don't think. I think there are very few people who can uh, use marijuana and have an overall better experience in life. I don't know. I forget the exact study, but the amount of mental illness, and this is just a correlation, but when you look at the maps of dispensaries in states that have it legalized, the amount of mental illness cases skyrocket. Um, like, and I think that a Christian nationalist would be more willing to outlaw something that is worse for society than a
Well,
secularist.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but like, for example, gambling's another horrible one, right? But the
Yeah,
problem for me with this is, I think I think both like political parties in this country suck, but I think very clearly evangelicalism and Christianity is much more closely tied to the Republican Party. But I think that that
correct.
party is far more corrupt and far more in bed with the billionaire class and like people that want to do things like legalize gambling, right? Like it was literally a conservative Supreme Court. I'm not blaming Christianity for a conservative Supreme Court, not exactly, but
Yeah.
like gambling is a huge problem, and I think that it's completely normalized by the people that identify as Christians, and I think Jesus would say these people have completely lost the plot, right? Usury, charging interest. I think that that's
Yeah.
like the predatory lending and predatory credit cards and stuff like that. I don't see anybody like we don't have Christian nationalism, but we have people that are in line with it, and I don't see them doing anything about it. It's all the like mostly secular like liberal people, like the bleeding heart libs that are fighting the fight against this kind of thing.
I
So I
mean,
think that that's a
I'm
little.
unaware. I'm unaware of the libs fighting usury and gambling. That's news to me.
The gambling thing is really new. So that one I wasn't thinking of specifically, but what I was thinking off the top of my head is like the predatory lending type of stuff. I mean, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have been fighting that kind of thing for many, 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 many decades. And you know, let I'm not we're not going to turn this into a Donald Trump thing. I think Jesus would hate Donald Trump. So I'm not going to sit here and make you have to deal. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Donald Trump is your guy and you have to defend him. I'm not going to do that kind of thing. But yeah, so like this is a huge problem that I have, is that I wish the people that are fighting the Christian culture war would act like Christians, because I just feel like they never do, except abortion and traditional family values. That's it. I don't see anybody talking about like those issues I just brought up, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think this is why we need Christian nationalism, because we've, especially in the past 20 years, a lot of Christians have completely removed themselves from politics and have taken on this idea that, the kingdom of God is just like this heavenly thing, and this earthly thing we're just meant to like sit here and suffer, right? The John Darby kind of dispensational premillennialism. The raptures come in, don't polish brass on a sinking ship. The ideology swept through the boomers like crazy. And I think it trickled down, and now we're seeing people like, actually, that's a shitty idea. And I think that the more see Christianism supported, because it's probably at like 5 or 10% right now if we were to do a poll, which is a lot, but obviously not overwhelming support. I think that the more you see it supported, the more you see people taking Christianity seriously. You will see politicians less and less just say I'm Christian, just to get the Christian vote, or just to, a lot of people still view if you say you're a Christian, you're probably generally a good person type of thing. But I think we'll see a lot less of that if we hold people's feet to the fire and say, no, this is a serious thing. This isn't something you can just say you are.
I don't agree, because the Christian culture war that I see every single day is really only obsessed with abortion, a little bit like porn usage, and they're really pissed off about feminism and stuff like that. And it's like, but I don't see any of you guys talking about all these other things that Jesus would really care a lot about. I mean, in fact, for whatever reason, the cultural Christian like influencer types or whatever, they fight for rich people keeping all of their money, which is something Jesus said makes it almost impossible to get into heaven. They do DraftKings ad reads during their videos. They don't talk about alcohol at all or any of that. So I'm like, woe you Pharisees, you hypocrites, or whatever it is that Jesus said. So that's kind of, I'm not sold on that for that reason.
Well, I mean, just to go back to the abortion thing, if you could concede, like, if you actually believed that abortion was murder, and I think the stats, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's close to, if not over, 1 million abortions a year in America.
It fluctuates a lot. Before COVID, it was around like 600,000. After COVID, probably almost certainly because of how much financial dire straits people were in, it rocketed up to like around 700,000 or 800,000. It got pretty bad around that issue, but it fluctuates a lot, kind of like suicide. Some years there's tons, other years it drops by a ton. It's very strange.
Yeah, and I don't know your exact views on abortion, but if you could see, like, say all of those were actual, and you believe that, wouldn't you talk about it a lot?
Yeah, I can understand that. I've actually made this point before, and it's either Louis CA or Bill Burr. I don't remember which ginger comedian makes this point, but he says, like,
there was a joke.
Look, you got to understand, these people think you're killing a baby. So when they lose their minds over it, like, you can disagree that it's a baby, but don't you understand that they think you're killing a baby? So, like, it's a joke about not having empathy. But
I think it's DK.
Yeah. James, we got to be pretty close to the 60 minutes.
We are ready to go into the Q&A if you guys are.
I mean,
Yeah, I think
we
so.
probably, the only other thing I wanted to talk about was fertility rates maybe, but it's probably, somebody's probably going to ask a question in the super chat. If they don't, I can sort of make the point I wanted to make about it.
You got it.
What do you want it? Is there one in the queue for it, James? Did you saw about
So
fertility?
far, I don't think I've seen one. You wanted to talk about how fertile Wi-Fi gospel is?
Yeah. No, the point I just kind of wanted to make is that this is brought up a lot when we do, or when I see the Christian versus whatever thing, or is Christianity good, is the fertility rates. But
Is this going to be your first one with Jake
yeah.
on that topic? Okay. I mean, it's definitely going to be brought up. So you're
Yeah,
good
yeah, for sure.
preparing.
But maybe I shouldn't give it away, but I'm going to anyways. But the point is, there isn't a single state in the country that is at replacement rate. And there isn't a single country in Europe either that is at replacement rate. And even if you look, I do have Pew Research here on this. Even if you...
It's 2.1, right?
2.2 is
Okay.
what I...
I thought Christians in general were at between 2.3 and 2.7 Christian women.
So yes, but the I have a Pew poll right here. I could send it to you later. It was super easy to find though, just fertility rate by denomination or whatever. But now there isn't a single state that's at replacement. Now you can boil it down. You can be like, well, that's because the secularist lesbians aren't having any kids. And it's like, but if you look at the Christians, we are. Well, not all of the Christian groups are actually meet that threshold. A lot do. But the one that is by far the biggest are the Mormons, right? So it's like, okay, well, if you're concerned with fertility rates, then encourage everyone to be a Mormon. But most of you don't think that they're even Christians. So I don't think Christianity is the answer here. But the biggest thing you have to keep in mind is we don't live at the end of history. We live in the middle of history. And the Christian numbers, while yes, they're at replacement, they were higher in the past and they're going down too. It seems to me that you guys are just dying more slowly than the lesbians are.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just lesbians, it's pretty quickly that they're gonna die. If they don't kill each other first. But I get what you're saying, and I agree that Christians are not having nearly the amount of children that they're supposed to. I mean, I only have 3, and I say only because I think that's a little. Most people are like, how do you do it with 3 kids, right? That's what I get a lot, and I'm like, I feel like 3 is not even near enough. I mean, my dad was one of 8, my mother-in-law was one of 10. Like, they just used to pop babies out. But to your point, I come from, I would say, when I was younger, a pretty nominal Christian family. But my grandfather was a pastor for 40 years of his life. And he, like, towards the end of his life, when he needed more help, just getting older, my stepmom was more involved. He lived with us. We went to church all the time. Like, this is like my high school years, and started, like, all my siblings are younger. I really became Christian at 18. I was heavily influenced by Christianity, which made me want to start a family, get married, have kids. That was like the first prescription, either that or go be a monk. And I just wasn't fit for the monk life. So but all of my siblings have all expressed, one of them wants kids, but he's like, I'm going to be like 35, have a house first, right? The other ones are like, no way, I'm not having kids. It's not because they're heavily influenced by Christianity. They don't take Christianity nearly as seriously as I would. They would probably say they're Christians, but it's not. The reason they're not having kids and don't get kids is not because they're heavily influenced by Christianity, but rather they're heavily influenced by secular society, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Probably go to Q&A from there, I guess.
You got it. Want to say, folks, very exciting debate. Check out our guests' links in the description. They're the lifeblood of the channel. We're going to jump into these questions. Work Academics says, I want to debate Andrew Fanboy. I think that's supposed to be you, Wi-Fi. How he lost to CGA. Who is CGA?
No, so Andrew debated Coach Greg Adams. I didn't watch the full thing, but from what I heard, it wasn't good for Coach Greg.
I watched a good chunk of that debate. Even Lord says, I don't understand. I say debate Andrew fanboy, but how could Andrew be a fanboy of himself? Even Lord says Peterson's source is smoking a crack pipe.
What? My source for what?
I don't know. They didn't.
Evan Lord is getting wilder by the day, and I'm here for it.
Basil problem. No, this is good old blood sports. We have to be fair. We've read some super chats to, all sides. And so, Wi-Fi, I think what's coming. Basil problem is obsessed with your body. He says, this one, not as much, but don't worry. They get very intimate. They say, Bluetooth gospel. Have you considered... Oh, no, it is about your body. Have you considered Ozempic? It will increase your rank in the Christian nationalist ranks.
I actually have considered Ozempic, and I'm just not willing to have the adverse side effects that may come with it. So I just need to get on a treadmill. Stop being lazy.
Even Lord says, don't worry, there are many more about him fantasizing about your body. Your body lives in his head rent-free. Even Lord says, should we send another 200 million? I mean 2 billion. Oh, shoot, I mean 4 billion. No, I mean $6 billion to Israel. Hashtag Americans for Israel. Hashtag APAC.
No.
When did this come up?
Yeah, that's a topic.
This one
I'm not
from
a Christian
work.
Zionist.
I'll give you a Planet Peterson. Did you want to entertain that question as well?
I said no.
No.
So.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I missed that.
It's actually against the Constitution to send money to people committing war crimes. So no.
Work Academic says, let's talk about how Andrew was wrong about non-state recognized unions. Wait, did you say Andrew? What? These are like got their mind on Andrew.
There's a debate within the super chats about something else.
It says not be subject to family court. Palimony exist today. CGA undefeated. Oh, you're right. They're defending CGA. Okay. Even Lord says, is it better to have a culturally religious society that doesn't enforce cultural norms by government and instead only through social/majority pressure?
Sorry, can you repeat that one?
Sure, they say, is it better to have a culturally religious society that doesn't enforce cultural norms by government and instead only through social and majority pressure?
That only through
Yeah,
majority
so they're
social.
saying like
Like
let's say you
bottom
have a
up instead
culture-
of top down.
Okay.
And like, yeah, I wish Jesus is so incredibly based. Like, what kind of liberal doesn't listen to Jesus talking about caring for the poor and oppressed and marginalized and women and even foreigners, like the Good Samaritan, and being extremely wary of rich people and all that, and doesn't think that that's awesome. Unfortunately, we just don't live that way very often for whatever reason. It'd be
If the outcome, oh, go ahead.
no, that's I said enough.
If the outcome is the same, then I'm not sure it matters. If you're talking about just what's the better way to get there, probably a bottom-up approach. I mean, if you can win the hearts and minds of people rather than kind of force them into it, then I probably think that would be better.
This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Basil problem. Wi-Fi, should women vote?
Should they vote? Probably not.
This one from Work Academics says, question for
I
Wi-Fi.
don't think many people should vote. I'll put it that way.
You got it. It says, are church non-state recognized marriages? Okay, so I think they're saying like purely, I think you could just say church backed marriages. So outside of, independent of the government. Are these types of marriages subject to the family court today? I want to see how in touch with reality these Christian nationalists are.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would be. I don't know the specifics of family court when it comes to marriage versus just like people living with each other and having a family. I'm pretty sure it's probably the same. Like if you have children together and there's issues and there's custody battles, I don't think the marriage part matters much in family court. It's just, I mean, they're probably if they're having custody battles, they're probably going through divorce anyway. They're not going to be married for much longer anyway if they even are. So I don't think it matters really. So if you have kids with somebody, then you go to family court, you deal with it.
Any thoughts, Eric?
I have no thoughts on that whatsoever.
You got it. This one from, oh, Basil problem. You disturbed man.
He's got deep pockets.
Yes, he does. He says, Wi-Fi, where in the Bible does it say it's okay to be obese? Wi-Fi, do you think Moses was embarrassed when his son saw him because he had a belly and was really out of shape?
That was an interesting tie-in. I'll give him that.
I worry about these people. I don't know what's going on out there. But
There's a super special stream out there where I take my shirt off if you want to go find it, Basil.
I'm sure he's already found it. This is from Mars Squeeze. It says Christian nationalism will never work. Christians often persecute other Christians. You guys don't agree on everything. Examples: the Inquisitions, the 12th century, Protestant Reformation, English Civil War, 1640.
Yeah, I think it's a problem for everybody. Nobody agrees on anything. I think that there's probably easier ways to find common ground. If you have, like, that's why I think where the most common ground comes from in America is through. Nobody really throws the Constitution under the bus. There's obviously very different interpretations of it. Same thing with the Bible. Most Christians don't throw the Bible under the bus, but there are very different interpretations of it.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Basil problem strikes again. He says, why so hungry? Why shouldn't we ban obese men from voting? Their lifestyle is hedonistic and non-biblical.
I'll tell you what, it would probably get me, it would probably motivate me more to be in shape if there were more constraints on being fat. Honestly, you know how much it costs the health system, obesity?
A lot.
Like, yeah, a ton of money. And I think that most people who suffer with obesity in adulthood, most of them suffered with it in childhood, and it's a hard habit to break, right? And I think that if there was definitely more social pressure, maybe even political pressure in some form, there would be more parents less willing to let their kids be obese.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. No, I'm kidding. This is for Kevin de la Riva. Says, Planet Peterson, can you justify the laws of logic from a secular worldview?
Maybe, maybe not. But even if I couldn't, then that wouldn't mean that that wouldn't mean that I would have to get them from Christianity or whatever. The way I view, I think logic is merely grammar. It's like literally nothing other than part of the description in which we use words. The idea that I've done a lot of debates on this, but the idea that you ground logic in the mind of God, I think is completely nonsensical, because it betrays everything we understand about how we even make statements. So if nothing existed and God said purple is blue, then that statement would therefore be true. But I think it actually wouldn't really be true. It would just be completely meaningless, because nothing exists except God's eternal mind or whatever. So God's eternal mind is referencing what when it makes a statement like that? Nothing. All of our logical statements reference either things that exist or linguistic concepts or mathematical concepts, which I think are just abstractions. But anyways.
You got it. This one coming in from, quick infomercial. As you see at the bottom right of your screen, watch Debate Con 6 featuring Planet Peterson and Jake of Rattlesnake TV as they go one-on-one in their debate. Watch it from home, folks. Join the Final Word membership tier here at Modern Day Debate. You can watch all the debates, the stage debates, at home. Comfort of your own home. Popcorn, Soylent, Eric, whatever you like to enjoy at home. we're gonna jump into, I pinned that at the top of the chat, folks. This one from Basil Problem. Wi-Fi. You are a presuppositionalist. Please explain this in the context of Gödel's incompleteness theorems.
I wish you could have said that you answer a logic problem during this debate, so I could just say the same. I don't know what Gödel's incompleteness theorem is, although he asked the same super chat and I went and looked it up, and I forgot. But I don't understand how it has anything to do. Like, when I focus on presuppositionalism, I focus on epistemology, so I don't really get into math and theorems and stuff like that.
It's obviously his specialty, and he wants to show you're an idiot for not knowing his specialty. This one from, let's see, PT Reed says, Planet Peterson's arguments are hypocritical. It is tyrannical to enforce moral laws, but not secular laws. LOL.
I mean, Wi-Fi made a point kind of similar to this, which is, well, if the secularist imposes laws that restrict what Christians are able to do, then the Christian is being oppressed. It's like, no, when we tell you that, when we say, no, it is illegal to murder abortion doctors, even if you think it is righteous, or it is wrong of you to start to refuse to treat an AIDS patient because they're gay at a hospital, you're violating the Hippocratic Oath. I don't care if you say that's based on your faith. You're harming somebody. It doesn't harm the Christian to not let them oppress other people. That's not tyranny. That's not oppression. It's such a terrible argument.
Now, this isn't one to one, but pretend for a minute that your example of murdering abortion doctors, Christians didn't agree with that, right? They do
Well, most
mostly.
don't, but don't agree that
Well,
it would
are you
be
talking?
okay.
Are you, yeah, don't agree that it would be okay,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yes, yes. Um, so for a second, if they did, just to make the argument work, wouldn't it be the same if it would not be Christians oppressing atheists if they made abortion illegal?
Would Christians be oppressing atheists if they made abortion illegal?
Yep.
I think they would be oppressing everybody because I think everybody has the right to bodily autonomy to a certain extent.
Right. So, and that's why I said pretend for a minute that Christians disagreed with you that it was. Then they said it was okay to murder abortion doctors, just to make the argument. For if you were to prescribe a law or enact a law that made it illegal for Christians to do something that they thought was morally okay, but you thought was morally repugnant, would that be oppressing them?
It would depend on the case. If I'm just going to end up kind of repeating myself here. If I'm telling you that you're not allowed to go out of your way to deprive somebody else of their constitutional rights or that thing I said earlier, their right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I just fundamentally disagree that I'm oppressing you by not letting you deprive people of their rights.
Right, and I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but just call it X, right? You say X is depriving somebody else of a certain right or harming somebody else.
I think porn would
The
be a good
Christian,
example. I have the right of free expression to like watch porn or whatever, and Christians say, no, we're going to get rid of that. I think that would be a
right,
good example for you to use.
but the Christian, I'm trying to make it from secularist to Christian, not the other way around, because the other way around
Sorry.
argument is abortion,
Mhm.
right? So you say X is harming someone or taking someone's rights away or violating their rights. So Christian, you can't do X. The Christian says, I don't think that X is actually harming someone or taking away their rights or violating their rights in any way. Wouldn't it be the same if that's not oppression? Then the Christian saying, hey, you doing abortions is harming someone and taking away their rights, violating their rights. That also wouldn't be oppression.
So you're making this specifically about the issue of abortion?
Well,
Because in
I
that
mean,
case, what I would say is abortion involves two parties, the fetus and the mother, and my response would just be the rights of the mother take precedent. So that would be my short answer to it.
right, but
We'll
like,
jump.
all right, sorry, we can move on.
We have one that, let me see where, well, pseudonym says, I'm surprised Wi-Fi is not asking, quote, if you have knowledge, then God blank. I think that's supposed to be the argument is that if you have
Right.
knowledge, then God. They say
Premise
that
one. No, I'm just kidding.
if you want to respond, you can. Otherwise, we
I
do
was.
have more from
It
Basil
was
about your
funny.
figure.
Those are the debates I usually do. We're opening the wings here. We're expanding.
This one from Mar Squeeze. If Christians place national identity above Christian identity, is that a form of idolatry? What does, quote, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's mean in a nationalist context?
Yeah, I think that it would mean the same thing. Because not most Christian nationalists are not advocating for strict theocracies. Probably some form of symphonia where I mean, taxes would get a little interchange there, but there still would be separate taxes for churches, separate taxes for the government because there would be different functions. Um, Lost my train of thought. Could you read it one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, they said Christian nationalism will never work. Christians often, well, that's not it. Sorry about that. They said if Christians place national identity above Christian identity, is that a form of idolatry? What does render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's mean in a nationalist context?
I answered the second one, forgot the first. I think there is a lot of confusion because nationalism itself holds different connotations. When you add Christian nationalism, it's not so much a qualifier as something very distinct. Usually, like nationalism is conflated with like ethno-nationalism and white supremacy and stuff like that. That's not what I'm advocating for, and I'm not advocating for your nation to come before Christianity, but rather your nation to reflect Christianity.
This one from Pseudonym says, Wi-Fi. Why do you use Thomas Aquinas as a Christian? You should say Catholics are not Christians. You're confusing people on theology and nationalism.
Well, I didn't use Aquinas. Planet Peterson brought him up, but what the interesting thing is, you don't have to be a Christian to have Christian ethics. Would you agree with that, Eric?
Kind of, but to me, I feel like if that's the case, then they're not Christian ethics. Like, there's never been, like, Buddha said the stuff that Jesus said before Jesus existed. If we want to point to the Ten Commandments, the like three good ones, every society has endorsed those things. So I don't think they're uniquely that thing or whatever.
It's interesting because you asked Andrew a question during your debate on if Christianity should be allowed in government. I think it was like the last question you asked in your cross-examination.
Yeah, I
you asked,
is there anything a
asked,
non-Christian can believe that a Christian, yeah, whatever, yeah.
Right, and I think his answer was interesting. He basically said, are you basically asking me if anybody can believe anything? And I think that's probably true for most things. Like, there's very distinct things, like you pointed out in Christianity, it's, the belief that Jesus is divine or Jesus is the Son of God, right? In secularism, the belief that only a secularist could hold, or an atheist maybe, is there is no God. Like, there's like very small things that these people can have like exclusivity on. But I think what makes it Christian is the source, the foundation you're getting it from.
Right.
Both of us could say theft is wrong. I could have the foundation in Christian ethics. You could have the foundation in secular ethics. It's not a uniquely Christian or secular ethic, but it's part of Christian ethics. It's part of secular ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would think that, I mean, this was my train of thought again. Where were we going with this?
This one coming, well, and you want me to read it again or to go to the next one?
Yeah, just read it
This
again
one
real
from-
quick because I want to land the plane.
You said reread it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just reread it real quick. Sorry.
They said if Christians place national identity
It
above
was the one
Christian
after
identity,
that.
what does render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's mean in a nationalist context?
No, that was part 2 of that same question. It was the question that came after that one.
Sorry. Oh, it was the Aquinas one. Why do you use Thomas Aquinas as a Christian? You should say Catholics are not Christians, confusing people on theology.
Yeah, that was the question. Yeah, we just kind of diverted the conversation.
Yeah, that's
I guess
probably why I lost.
That's why it happened. Yeah.
I got a second job recently. I've been working a lot. Forgive me.
No, I get old. I sundown at this time of day. Samuel Tawhid says, Planet Peterson. Technically, they see PP Kafir Bebus. Okay. Planet Peterson. Kafir Bebus, a 1-year-old Jewish baby, was strangled to death by your Gazan friends after he got abducted on October 7th. You're evil if you support jihad.
Okay, I doubt it. They've lied about everything. The kids in ovens was a lie. The widespread rape thing, there was no credible accounts of that. Literally, the family of reported victims said that this didn't happen. And they've killed 67,000 children at the very least. So take your 1 and weigh it against 67,000 and then go fuck yourself.
Basil Problem says Wi-Fi. I'll lighten the mood. It's Wi-Fi says, have you heard of the lemon pie test? If it It says if it tastes good, then it must be eaten. I assume you follow this doctrine. And also says, Wi-Fi chubby, have you ever touched? Oh, come on. I'm not reading that out loud. Okay. Let's see. That was weird. This guy is a pervert. It's getting too weird.
Was it like that one scene in Dodgeball where what's his name? Is it
He's
Greg?
talking about
What's
punching the
actor's name?
clown.
Yeah,
Call the knob. He says
in Dodgeball, the guy was caught with the pizza.
the clown punchers. What was it? The pizza?
He got caught with the pizza. What's Ben Stiller got caught in his office with a pizza?
The pot.
'Cause he
Oh, you're
owned the
right.
gym.
You're right. Pot. He was
Yeah.
pizza in that movie. Okay. Basil Problem says Peterson. Richard Dawkins. So this is the same guy. Richard
Yeah.
Dawkins does not. Which they have something to say to you, Eric. They say, Peterson, Richard Dawkins does not debate creationists. Are you not validating this Christian nationalist by debating, quote unquote, him?
Well, we're not debating creationism. No, the idea that if you disagree with somebody's ideology, or if you think their ideology is dangerous and you platform them, even to debate them, you're legitimizing them or going against your own interests. I think that is just so utterly stupid. Because if you don't push back against their ideas, they're just going to talk in their own echo chambers and their ideas are going to spread there. So, no.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think you're 100% right, and especially within the context of a debate, like he's literally challenging my worldview. But maybe like you could make the argument if like you were giving someone who's very morally reprehensible a softball interview or something. Like maybe you can make an argument that way.
Yeah, if
Not
you
a-
weren't
not an-
prepared, if you sucked at what you're doing, then yeah, it would be bad. So that is, yeah.
This one coming in from. I do appreciate your question. Samuel Tawheed says, oh boy, Planet Peterson, UNRWA, am I saying that right? UNWRA commits war crimes. Stop funding
UNRWA.
them.
Yeah, it's
UNRWA.
the UN, whatever. Yeah, they've just labeled everybody they don't like Hamas. It's just utterly stupid with zero credible evidence for anything. So it's like the fourth different debate within the debate tonight.
Wow, that's true.
Whoever
It
sent the
has
first
been.
one opened up a can of worms, and now the floodgates are open.
That's funny. There's another one. This is Coach Greg Adams got cooked and had to resort to insulting Andrew's wife because he lost the argument. You're right. That they're still going on. I have to
Coach Greg
say,
must have not read any super chats, and they're just getting them out here.
I have to say that debate, it was one where I was like, I'm not taking any sides here, but I'm saying if any debate was about to come to blows, that one could have. Like they were in the same room, and what he said about his wife was like, I don't know. I'm not even married, but if I was married, I'd be like, if you said that about my wife, I don't know if I could restrain myself. I'd be so angry. Anyway, Pseudonym says, for both of you, if an atheist took over a country, does that mean this nation will say, quote, we have no meaning, purpose, or meaning? Or will it say, quote, we make it up as we go? Is that a contradiction or secular?
That is an impossible to understand question. What the hell? It sounded like they were just making the case that atheism equals nihilism, and so you can't base a society in atheism. It's like, okay, then base it in something else that is also secular, like atheism is secular. But then that second thing, would there be a contradiction if an atheist ruler made things up as they go? The second part of that was completely nonsensical to me.
This one from Samuel Talley. Did I read this one? They say for Planet Peterson. Prove one child deliberately targeted by IDF.
The little girl shot in the tank. They knew, they had the 911 call. They knew she was there. And they were conversing back and forth, but they literally, so that's one. But even if you don't believe that one, they literally bomb the refugee tent cities, knowing that they'll kill people that are just standing by, and they claim that it's to get a bad guy that is amongst the crowd. So that is the equivalent of bombing a school when there's a school shooter. Yeah, you're going to get them, but you know you're going to kill all the innocent people too. And it's done deliberately. God, do these people just not think? Are they capable of thinking?
Wow. This one from, let me lighten the mood. Basil Problem says, Wi-Fi, you are definitely not fit for the monk life. Most correct statement you've ever made. Wow. Now, this one
Fit
from
for the what?
the monk life.
The monk life.
This one
Yeah, I
from
probably wouldn't be fat if I was a monk, huh?
was Buddha a monk? I don't know. This one from Samuel Tahi, different kind of monk. Says, oh, we got that one. Don't worry. Okay. This has been adventurous tonight. Oh no. Basil Problem has a bone to pick with you. Planet Peterson.
Oh, interesting.
Peterson. It just gives you that. It's not Planet Peter. It's just Peter. Peterson, to confirm, your source of income is debating people on TikTok and places like this?
It's not my sole source of income. I don't really make any money on TikTok. I do live streams on there, but they're not really monetized. And I stopped uploading videos to there because I just don't care. But no, YouTube is like, it's not the sole source, but it's the majority source.
And I'll tell you what, any content creator, if you don't create content, you probably wouldn't know this, but you don't just make money creating content. It's actually very hard to monetize it. It takes a lot of skill and hard work and consistency. I'm sure both of these guys could tell you that.
Yeah, YouTube is hard. I have to be honest. Like no joke. I'm not trying to, but it's a hard thing. Let's see. I know it seems easy because it's like, oh, it's like fun with video cameras. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, but it's also like to stay fresh and relevant, it's challenging. You have to like always reinvent yourself and stuff. Anyway, this one from
And then the drama. You don't know anything about drama though, James, right?
well, we've had our fair share over the years, but yeah, it's crazy. But also H5C says you don't have to read the bowl. I forgot the topic. Okay. I am sorry that we've entertained these bizarre super chats tonight. But I do want to say a couple of things. First, come out and meet both Wi-Fi and Planet Peterson. See Planet Peterson debate. And now here's the thing. If you sign up at the VIP ticket, you can also watch Wi-Fi Gospel debate because he'll be debating in those outnumbered recordings. I think maybe one of them. I don't know if you're up for Daniel Hakikachu. We'll talk. But folks, come out to DebateCon. I have put the tickets link in the description box. If you can't make it, if your legs fall off on the way to the airport, you can watch it at home at the Final Word membership tier. But it's going to be a huge time. And we take it very seriously. We have a lot of armed security because I know people are like, hey, like, you know, there's all sorts of people out there, unfortunately, that might try to do something. We have a lot of hired security. So these are trained professionals, armed. We actually have 4 that we're hiring that will be there. It's an experienced team. So we take it very seriously. And then I want to assure everybody it's going to be safe. This is our 6th conference. Technically, it's kind of our 7th because we did one called Modern Day Debate Live. So last question that came in. Big League Drew says, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Thank you for that, Big League Drew. That much more positive.
My oldest, I used to say that to him all the time when he was like 2. And then I could just look at him and I would say, hey, Noah, how much? And he would go, ah, and he'd start yelling at me. It was pretty funny.
That's funny. That's funny. I like that. Folks, come on, hang out with us at DebateCon 6. Thank you, Eric and Wi-Fi Gospel. It's been a true pleasure to host you guys tonight. This is a lot.